So this in my right hand is the oldest map I could find on online, and Kyrkagarden, the churchyard, is this section here, and this is supposed to have been opened due to burial pressure from down into the town, which is back behind me. So this is the older section. Do our har do, here you are. So we're now in the old section. One section of this was supposed to have had paupers burials in it initially, because when they couldn't bury the people in the usual burial grounds, they brought them up here anew and started to bury up here. But I have a funny feeling that these are all now. This has fully been taken over, the old section, for these individual burials. So we'll just navigate and see, are there potentially any early features there. Number 211 Bernhard, 1809 to 1816. Some kind of colour coding strip there, and then they've got lovely, very fine gravel, and that's raked. So that's early. Yeah. Wonder what dates on this lad. 1911, 1939. So that wee fella, nice family grave. 1952, 2020. Oh, timber grave. What's on that? I don't know, are you allowed to step on them or not? I suspect not. Look at that. A timber plank, essentially. A headstone. Looks flat in his face. No, he's face up, is he? I just wonder what's on him. 1805 to 1885. Lars Wilhelm Enchen. Oh, look at that. I mean, can survive even the Uppsala winters. Beautiful bit of timber. So he's mid-19th century. It's all gravel. Iconography. Not the Chi row there. Just crosses. 1790 to 1857. 1868, did you go up then? So, thereabouts. I wonder what the colour coding is. 1970, an unusual triangular one at the back. What's this for the... Is that a footstone? Number 77, something Gertz. Well, that's the back, and this is the face. Number 77, Gertz, can't see a date. Chiseling at the back. 1850s. Lund. Statue on that one, human figure. (1923), 1860 to 1924. Malmgren family, 1811 to 1887. He's got his own signature on the stone. To the individualization of the monuments. No, got to show. Yeah, I think we have older stones there. I suppose, thinking about it elsewhere, if there's paupers' graves, they tend not to be in the most visible parts of the graveyard. They'll stick them at the side or at the back, distant from the gate perhaps. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I'm just wondering. Professor of law, I suppose. Oh my goodness. Ribbing, number 58. So they have a numbering system and they have the names, and that's that grave here in front of us for that round-headed lad. Oh, and the tools are left here then hanging up. Oh, and a big water tank. Nicely done. Oh, foot pedal for the water. I think I saw the water's turned off in the winter because the water pipes would crack otherwise. Still in the old section here. 1900 to 1986. (1846 to 1886). Oh, look at the nice designs. And the gravel. Lovisa Backstrom, 1837 to 1901. Is that a wooden cross there? So I think Martha was telling me that when she did the research here that they started with box hedges, which they're now trying to replace with a Berberis hedge. That's looking like here. Apparently the box was spreading too quickly. Big iron cross there. Watman's family grave. Tapered grave slab. PFA Fabian. 1825. I don't know how to zoom in. So that one there behind the tree. And then there's a couple of wee slabs there. So grave markers. It's all done. The gravel, you wouldn't be walking on them. Okay, Zacharias Nordman, physics professor. So this is top end burials, higher status, I mean. Nordmark. So this is all family. And you can step in. Yeah, these are all posh. That's Cyrillic writing on that, so 2016, some poor young girl. Just squeeze up the side and see what's on the side of that one. Can I see it? 18, no, is it 1827? So there's a little low stone there and then an iron cross in front. And I don't know, is it just the plate? Gustav Olaf something. Might be able to zoom in later. Squeeze back down. So it's early here now and the gates are all open. No dogs allowed. That's nice. Very modern. 1989, I like that. Thought I passed a big lump of timber, but I can't see it now. So we're still the old section here, but it's all so... grave marker there perhaps. That granite. 1887 I think. Yeah. Nicely done with the little hedges. Nemus family grip. Stad Physical. Then here, I was wondering about this, but there's a Professor Eric Gotland there. There is, a large, it's a table, it's up on legs, so it's a recumbent slab on pads. And then here we have early numbered markers. P.O. Shantz, number 17, number 15. Don't know what that number is over there. 17 at the back. PVGN, Azaleas, architecture professor. So I thought these might be kind of some of the pauper graves, potentially with the simple markers, but not necessarily now. Oh my goodness, look at this. Lots going on. I'll keep along the front, because that historic map, which what date I don't know, at a guess now it's looking the style is potentially kind of 1870s or thereafter. Yeah, all filled, all the grave spaces are all filled. Hard paths, high status. I imagine the graves, they're not like the Scottish layers or the Irish grave spaces that can be bought in perpetuity. Here, I suppose, when it goes out of use, it's reused, maybe potentially then purchased by a different family. Levin family grave, Ekholm. The raking of the gravel curtails your ability to step in. Knut, he's fallen now. Alright. Oh yeah, so he's just off the plinth there, so he's just the traditional type that we'd be used to. Yeah, he's got decorative, he's got the hourglass, and then there's the scrolling foliage on the top, nicely done, and a nice rolled top. Family grave at the bottom. Trying to see a date without stepping in, but I won't. Don't want to get shouted at in Swedish or show disrespect. Fabric, or is that made? Ekholms, they're all Ekholm family slabs. Eden. The stair time now has been pushed over by the tree. Across the other side, yeah, family graves. Go down the side. Look, the tools are left here. So communally, people use the tools. Water, rakes, that's what they rake the gravel with, a wooden rake. So burst here without grave markers. But they have little labels on them. Does the colour coding indicate that it's free for resale? Oh, the slab at the bottom, that's the raking slab, is that you can stand here and step in and step back. Dokes family grave, or Polks. Dahlberg. Like the historical sources I can't find online did say that there were early pauper graves here, and early cholera related graves potentially, and I was hoping that we might see something like what we saw in Stockholm in the cholera Kyrkagarden, but this is so intensively used. It's a big university town, so I think you've got a lot of it's been thriving as a university town, and I think you're getting a lot of use from that, and a lot of change in status, and people wanting to mark their status with their burial grounds, burial spaces. Wow, it's quite impressive. Big stone curbs here when they're not using the Berberis or the box. The path is very wide. That's another option. We've seen that elsewhere in Ireland. Is this the box? We have seen pathways used for burials in other graveyards. So paths are very wide here. I'd even wonder, if you were doing historical research, could you potentially indicate that your standard grave spaces will be alongside the paths, and that if you had times of crisis, then could they potentially bury in the paths? It's possible. That's just something to keep in mind. I was reminded last night, thinking about this, that because I'm in Ireland, and during the Second World War we had what was called the emergency. Ireland stayed neutral during the war, Second World War, even though a lot of Irish men and women went to fight. separately, individually, but I don't have World War II events in my head when I'm looking at potential usage of sites like this, and thinking about the cholera Kyrkagarden in Stockholm. There's always the possibility that some of those landscape features could be tied in with events during the Second World War. If my history is right, the Nazis invaded Sweden. I think it's had such industrial potential that it was part of their economic plan, and it was a fraught time, and still is in Swedish history, that the extent to which you're occupied and to which you work with the occupying forces as well. We're getting a lot of wee sunbursts. We almost call them rising suns. Now we're getting into something interesting here. Okay, so we've left the hard wide paths, we're still on them, but now we're at the back end of the graveyard, and we have our first bit of grass inside a hedge, and there are okay, that's a drain feature. Oh, Kadeshin. So I'm just looking here at the back, a lot of iron crosses that iron grave markers that Martha told me about. Are they iron at the back? Are they moved up here? Are these ex situ? Yeah, I'm glad now we're getting a bit of a difference. 1836, har in something. Studerenden. Oh, it's a nation grave. So the students were organised, or still are organised, in what they call nations, and so they came from home, and then they all grouped together, I think in significant geographic grouping. So if you're from Gotland, you had the Gotland nation, and if the student died while in college and the family couldn't afford to bring them home, then they would have been buried here. And I think this is one of those general grave markers. So that's potentially a student where the burial is paid for by a community. So there's potentially location for communal graves up here. They're family graves. And those, I'm not sure they're marking in situ graves. Lindbergh family grave, 1872. Forsberg's, nice stone, 1807 to 1855. They at Salvetti, 1835. Is that a reverse moon and a wreath? 1833. We're getting lots in the 1830s here now. My presumption, which was, I think the main cholera epidemic that hit Uppsala was the 1857. Michael G. Hagen from the university translated some text for me. Bibliotekamen och Boktryklasdom, 30th October 1845. 1845. So in mid-19th century markers here. There's a mound here. Family graves around the outside, but what's on the inside? People came to visit there and they put their names on the stone. Nice. Cottage. 1864. Oh, I've seen that fella. That exact fella now was up in not the name, but the actual Iron Cross. So that's 1864. So they're buying them from a catalogue. There's the winged heads, the hourglass in wings, and then the archangel. Alright, so that was up in Öregrund, where we spent the last couple of days, did a video yesterday morning. 1865. Look at this fella, he's unusual. 1846, Lars Olaf Berg. Alright, nice old section there, and not hard standing. I'm just intrigued now, what's this mound? Probably a high status individual family. Alongside me on the right now, 2005. Just have a Recce on the outside. Small little grave markers. Okay, so these are looking like little burial plots for cremations. 1988, I was wondering, was that more modern? Okay, these are all cremations, I suspect, around this mound. So the question is, what is the mound? What size is it first? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inside the mound there. That's an 8 by 8. It's topped by that then. I can't see any name on that. So I see when they've done interpretation here, they've added key people really. They have a map, a very good map of the cemetery, and then key people's graves marked on that. Which is a standard approach to take really. When we do our surveys, we try to get everybody. Anyway, we have a potential. Either it's a landscape design as a modern feature for marking these, what I presume are cremation areas, or it's built around an older mound. Yeah, like that. It's got potential anyway to be. Like, I'm looking for the earlier cholera graves. I'm just wondering. Yeah, this all looks like cremations. Back in Ireland now, they're putting a lot of columbariums or columbaria, and the cremation urns will go into those. This is a kind of an in-between approach, another little work area. Hartman, 2004, 1968, Bergstrand, Moran, and London. Roden, 98, 43. Back end here, there is a great big hare. The hare in the cemetery in Uppsala. He's here on the right, I don't know, can you see him? Urban life, brilliant. So with the grass left here by the wall, you'd be hoping you could get some early features, but I'm not sure we're going to. It's a shame to take the camera away from where the hare might be. What dates are we getting back up here? 1933. Yeah. Big long-legged hare. See him in the corner. Edlund, yeah. Oh, there's a wavy design here in the gravel, so people can express their artistic. He's gone out the gate. Oh, there's more. So it's a big, expansive. So I think I'm on the edge of the older section here now. I walked down past what's called the English parking, because it's planted on an English design, landscape design. Wondering, could they potentially have had overwhelmed burials out there? There was no contenders really. But I think now I'm looking back down across the whole of the old section. Look at this. This is reminiscent of those rune stones that they have. Do they have them in Sweden? Lundqvist, Broden, Tam. (1847) Frederick Tam. Beautiful. Wood pigeon everywhere. There's another signature over there. Victor Soderberg. In there, under the pediment. Yeah, this central section now is drawing me, so I want to go down there. There was commentary in one webpage saying that, if I'm not misremembering, saying that the people who lived up here used to graze their animals in here, and some of the early graves put up iron railings to keep the animals out. Now we'll hear that all over Ireland and across the water in Britain as well. Now we're potentially getting a couple of early now I'm not sure, sometimes it's a survival element, it's that there was iron railings as a fashion and that some of them just survive, and then the story goes out that they're tied in. Look at the size of that. G. Lenander, 1857 to 1908. High stone, high status. Oh, look at this. Okay, we have a whole rake of names here now. The Westgota Nation. Alright, so this is one of those communal graves where they bury their own members. Agatha Tenberg, 1854. Adrian Tenberg, 1859. Jane Tenberg, 1908. Christina Miller, 1865. There's Professor Carl Norrie, 1918. Here's the top one, 1854. So, if it's 1857-ish, potentially cholera-related death, but this is one of those communal graves, so I like that. The lion, quite regal, are giving us their political affiliations. I wonder were all the nations politically royalist, or were there differences in that way? Tenberg, Lindskog, so regional names, I suppose. Henriksen, 1945, 1881, 1881, 1876, 1865. I'm not seeing World War related deaths, am I? 1951, 64, 1859, 1861. No. Nice that they've kept names. I wonder, are they all there? If they are, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So there's about 40 names there, and potentially 40 burials in here. And beautifully kept, and somebody has just planted fresh. It's too early in the morning for me to just think of it. Oh, what are they? But yeah, beautifully looked after. Blackbirds, wood pigeon. Beautiful sunny morning. Yeah, like you will. I've seen in Manchester religious affiliation, so religious communities, like the equivalent of the Legion of Mary, burying their people together people used to subscribe to a burial fund, didn't they? And then they get buried together. This is their different nation grave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 meters square, roughly, and it's on a mound, and it has a great big slab. So potentially, that's interesting. Mohammed Asghari and a star. Yeah, that's fab. So there's a bit of a mound on that nation grave there now. Is there one on the one above? Yeah, at the end. And there's Eric Nuss, Dumpross and stars. Got a shin. Oh, look at this, my goodness. Our first bit of white marble. It's definitely a chest tomb. Stockholm Nation, 1889, 1848. So, if I was back in Ireland, somebody has a little candle for them. If I was back in Ireland, I'd expect there was a substructure there. What size is that? And there would be an entrance on the east, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 by 5. So a communal grave there. and beautifully marked. It may be the last date, maybe they stopped doing it at a date, and that's what that is. Nice to visit and light a candle. 1901, 1946, 1959 is the last date I can see in that. Okay, another big one over there. We'll go over there and have a look. Nice classy bit of design there from the Stockholm nation. Oh, okay, no, I thought we were getting... Oh yeah, that's him, Landsman. Värmlands nation. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, I don't think the Swedes do it. Yeah, a W sound, do they? Okay, so is that an eagle on a rock, and it's roughly 5 meters square. Landsman, Värmlands nation, Bergman, 1826. I have to go over there. Go around. Professor, inspector, lots of different names. Professor, national inspector. National inspector of what, I wonder? The iron railing, it's exclusive, it keeps you out, not just animals, but everybody. That's a beaut. And the sunlight is good this morning. Some little hearts in that one there. Lindbergh, Bertel, Lindbergh. Pardon me. Here we are now. Undulating in the ground. The rake is picking up the undulation in the ground. So Bergman died 1826, 1830, 1831, 1833, 35, 35, 38, 39, 38, 39, 1839, 1846, 1840, 1860. Okay, nothing from the 1857 cholera epidemic, but 1868. So these are all strongly 19th century. 1882, final burial 1931. There's also 1967 laborator. So I suspect by the end, people were able to bury their own people back at home, but you could choose to get buried here as part of that nation. But what did the grave look like? Is there a substructure under there? Is that too risky in a place that gets so cold during the winter, or not? Or have we got individual graves? Like if the reuse period in the legislation in Ireland is every 14 years between adults, so on that basis then the first 6, 9, the first 10 graves there are just over a decade. So you'd easily get, or you just get 10 graves in there, individual graves, and you could reuse those then potentially after that, a single grave reusage. Okay, that's interesting. What's around the back? You can hear the birds. I hope you can hear the birds. It's just it's I met a gent in Dublin. He's written a few books on Dublin graveyards. His name won't come to me now, but he said the cemeteries are the lungs of a city, and if you have a healthy biodiversity in a cemetery and a graveyard, then it's so good for the city. He's plenty early there now. 1879, 1867. Yeah. Okay. It's so now what's I think I'm learning here is the nation graves are the communal graves, and that's what's of interest. You mightn't necessarily be getting the cholera graves I was hoping for. Oh, look at this show. This tall slab. Yeah, he's a nation grave. I thinking of the ship's burials in Kildownet in Achill Island. It took us a couple of visits to actually spot the individual graves that are in there. Big walled off section. Gothenburg Nation, landsman, 1838, 1847. Again, skip, nothing in the 50s, so 61, 63, 69. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if there are indeed only 14 graves in there, then this section is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So 7 paces wide is 7 graves. So there's enough there with 2 rows of 7 graves to fit. If you're the pace is the old, let's say, medieval measurement, but if for a cemetery measurement, you're looking at 2 paces for a grave space almost. Certainly a pace and a half, with the half pace being a bank between the graves. But yeah, I think now that's what we're seeing there. This is a 7x7. Potentially individual graves. Can we see them in the grass there? Nothing shouting out. It looks lower here than that. But it's not mounded. Yeah, I'm getting the feeling so. They got individual graves in some, and the mound one that we saw over, maybe not. Would the mound have gone on afterwards? Oh. It's the mounds now are drawing my eye. That's what's interesting. You go to different graveyards and you learn. Oh, I walked past him. Oscotta Nation. I guess Ost is east. Alright, he's longer. I wouldn't say he's mounded. He's on there's a plinth. There's a base. The plinth is on him. Oscotta Nation. Low iron railing here. Measure him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's 12 by 5 or thereabouts. And lots of names on this. Lots. 1860s, 1854, 1850, 1843. So it's an undulating ground surface. Last date I can see there, Ake Colburnson Johnson, 1965. He was born. They do the full date. 10th to the 12th or 12th to the 10th. 1st to the 12th. 1965. So okay, so that's a communal grave space, potentially individual graves. Not really a hint that there's of course you if they dig if they use the fill up grave system, and so you dig the grave, you bury a coffin, you fill back in the grave. You know now that Johnny is buried in there. And then you know that he went, with your records, you know he went in 5 years ago or 15 years ago. And then let's say somebody else passes away, you then know you can go down. Let's say Johnny went down 8 feet and you want to leave 1.5 feet between the coffins. So you go down 6.5 feet and you can bury the next chap or person all in the one grave. So there are systems, easy systems for doing multiple coffins on a communal session. Our communal approach, and now this is a definite mound, and even either that's for a substructure. I'll go around and see, can I make sense of it? The Magdalena Thurs Maiden. Somebody died 1794. 1794, so that's I think 1790s. The graveyard, the cemetery opened. Archbishop. Okay, alright, so this is kind of a more conventional grave mound that, like we'd see a lot of in Ireland and in Britain. So this is some high status individual with their own obelisk, beautiful granite, and then the structure is under here, the structure is under there. There's some kind of a stone structure, probably a good 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot deep. Where would the entrance be if it's there? I'm not sure. I'm getting distracted now by things I'm seeing behind. Alright, so I think here we're seeing the kind of a high status arrival into the cemetery. And is that 8 o'clock? I think I heard a bell in the background. Oh, there's a photograph on the headstone. Kamel Hassanzada. Lots of flowers. 1922. 1949. Little wooden cross. It's a lovely morning. It's the end of April. 1st of May is coming up, is imminent, but just warm enough. I have no gloves on, but I have a scarf and a cap on. Look at the size of the slab, and there is a mound. Kyrkagarden, a donation by Olaf Werelius, professor in Federlandset, 1618-1682. I'll try and translate that off this. Kadesho. There's a massive slab. The thing that struck me driving through Sweden yesterday was it's the amount of rock everywhere from the glacial outwash and things is just huge. So what is going on here? Skal de Kunst. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So she's roughly 4 meters square. It's mounded. Is it a grave for this professor or for Olaf? Like he died 1682, so that's too early. I'm not sure what's going on there. We'll have to translate that. Oh, I can see a sign there now. I didn't come. This mortuary chapel is being done up, so I didn't go and have a look at that. Martha was saying. Oh, there's a design on that, alright. Yeah, it's on the rune stone type. So if I search his name and then the rune stone, maybe it's telling us about who's buried there. A contender for some kind of communal burial anyway, or pandemic burial perhaps. So it is nice. We are getting mounds, some of them to hold up a structure, and others apparently not. Whatever they were used for. I presume that's a big nation grave there. This is a sign. It's that same map we saw below at the gate. Ardu. Yeah, Gotland's nation, yeah. So this is the central location. So it's designed from the start. And it was at the front end there that I was wondering, were we going to get potential signs of cholera related or pauper graves. The thing with pauper graves is that they're non-perpetuity. So the ground can be reused very quickly. The solution to some of those questions is that you have to dig into legislation for access to graves in that particular country. So we'll try that for Sweden. It's the huge slabs. They no trouble finding them, but I guess they go to quarries. Oh yeah, nice water cisterns or water tanks around it. Yeah, a nation. Like, you'd have to think that the mound here is really part of the substructure. Uplands nation. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So another 14 graves in there. So you can see that fitting the same way. So if you went around and wrote down the inscriptions on all the nation graves, you'd work out alright the phasing in which the nation graves were adopted, who went first and followed on. Hammarskjöld. Dag Hammarskjöld. 1961. If I'm right, that's the Dag Hammarskjöld was the former, Secretary General of the United Nations, 18th to the 9th, 1961. And my family had links with Dag Hammarskjöld because when Dad was about 17, he joined the Irish Army, and he was in the first batch of the soldiers of the Irish Army who went out to the Congo. They were the batch before they were the second batch. Then got in had far more violence encountered. Whereas, Dag Hammarskjöld died in 1961, and this is his grave. Here you are. I'm delighted to see that. I'm going to take a photograph of my father. So they're a big family here. We do a family phone call on a Saturday night, so I can share the photograph with Dad tonight. There's a Taiwan Asian name. Okay, high status family grave. Nation grave. What's that up there in the centre? Something to draw the eye. No. The first of our broken Greek columns, 1851. We see far more of those in Ireland, and particularly far more across in Britain. Yeah, high status professors. Nicely done, all of it. The big wide paths make it really, so the cemetery became an urban park then as well, I suppose, part of this movement for public health. And tree-lined avenues, all good for the soul. Come and visit the family grave, rake the gravel, and then hear the birds. Just trying to see, could there be any mounds? Bressler. So that fella is more of an Art Deco. Ragnar Freiberger. Ragnar, to my Irish ear, is potentially Norse, but I don't know, maybe there's Ragnars in Sweden. There's a Bill there. That's the surname, is it? Is it? So we are getting nice statues. They have a lovely touch. They're not afraid to do an artistic presentation. And now this is more of what we're used to. Landegren, 1857, 1939, 1866. I'm not sure from the date of this, but I'd be going late 19th century, and this whole substructure is under here. That's our first one now. Whereas we get this all over the place in Cork and Dublin, all over Ireland. So that's interesting now that we are getting some. If you go to Glasnevin in Dublin, you just see rakes of those. I don't want to miss. I wasn't up here already, was I? Axel Rosen's family grave. Picciano, 2008. Is that Italian? So seen Asian, Italian, don't know, Arabic. It's a family grave. but it's decorated on the runestone approach. That's like a cross in the middle. So the runestone isn't pagan. It can be used in a very Christian manner as well. Oh, is that it? That's the same one, John, is it? Yeah. I can't remember where I've been. We came along that wall, yeah, so this is it, alright. Tam. Yeah, that's fab. There's the hare. He's saying, will you ever leave me alone? Wonder do they have coursing in Sweden? Osterholm, Matsson's, who won't hound him, he's gone outside. Outside. Rick Rosenson, Wallin, Nutbergs. So they have, we used to call this a palm tree when I was in school. So the sections are all protected. I guess you'd want wind protection if you're visiting at a grave. All little low stones, then curbs, and then they'll do a wee hedge to delineate the grave space, and then a stone at the bottom. Who's there? That looks Hungarian. Laszlo. Lots going on. Lots going on. We're way up into the modern stuff then. I think we're way out of the cholera grave era signature. Why is the signature considered a personalised? You can see the person's handwriting, which means you can see the person. I suppose this stands a lot if you're in a very literate society where writing is a key part of your day-to-day life. I write, therefore I am. And now you can see me because you can see my signature. Yeah. Like there's a decent range of surnames. One of the Uppsala partners in our project, Michael, was saying when his grandfather joined the army, he was the 10th Larson. So his sergeant said you have to change your name, buddy. So I thought that was interesting, that names change. What did he pick? He picked the name of a local river. So Kyrkagarden, I can't pronounce it. They have very subtle different pronunciations that we have. So surnames are forming anew. I wonder will we see surnames forming new now as well in these coming years as our populations change. Will the old practices blink out and new ones form? Okay, so now we're on to a deciduous hedging because there's no leaves in any of these. And it's actually a drive through. You can drive through it. So this is a very public cemetery. They were telling me that the K sound can be a ch sound, and I think that is relevant to church and chapel. So there's a chapel down here, Vilhetten's chapel. Alright, and now we're out to the back section here. We're on a hard tarmac surface. There's a mixture of deciduous and evergreen hedging. Yeah, so don't sow box. That's the instruction there, because it's spreading. My breakfast is calling, so I'm going to just have a quick scan here. So I don't reckon. There are a couple of contenders there potentially. One maybe, but even then there's no strong contenders for if there's mass communal graves for the cholera. And but perhaps the most interesting thing is the new type of communal grave that I didn't really see anywhere else, which is the nation graves for the student associations. And there's a few different types of those visible. There's ones that involve single graves, and there's one that then have mounds that potentially indicate some kind of common burial approach. But we need to do the historic research to actually try and work that out. Oh, can't resist that over there. I think this is too far back to be tied in with the early cholera usage, but there is an enclosed section over here that has a hint of a mound. I like the very fine quarry dust that they're using. It's nice underfoot. Oh. Stern looking chap. Rosengren, Murner, lots of different surnames. A ringed cross, not a Celtic cross but a ringed cross. Fried, Carlsons, Lindberg, Larson. Yeah, here we come just in case. Yeah, okay, the ground is rising but it's not. Would you call that a potential mound? During lockdown, a chap was doing LiDAR analysis of Galway City in English. I think he's either English or Welsh. Walters is his surname, and he put a LiDAR, he processed the LiDAR data for a part of Galway City in Ireland and Bohermore Cemetery. And what did he find inside in the middle of it but a star-shaped fort from the 1650s? Cromwellian siege of Galway, and we had worked there over a few days, really across a few years, and we used to be walking up and down these slopes, and it was this kind of a ground here that turned into a star-shaped fort. So you learn your lesson. Keep the eyes open. There are other features hidden there under the ground potentially. Just keep that in mind. Alright, that's the Lutheran Cathedral, the twin spires there in front. This is nice, it's more open. Very high ground, modern graves though. Any hint? Oh, there's Christ carrying the cross. That's unusual. The Nordstrom Strand family grave. That's very unusual. Okay, nice interesting features up here. Be interesting to see, is there a LiDAR source for these graveyards for this part? I know large parts of Europe have publicly available LiDAR, so the trick will be to try and get our hands on that and process it. I suppose thinking about it like this, I never had an interest in graveyards, only insofar as we knew where our grandparents were buried. We were lucky we didn't lose any of our own while we were young. Our aunts and uncles who did passed away before we were really, before we were grown. And it took a while then for anybody else to move on. But as an archaeologist studying graveyards, it's social history that I think is significant for me. That's why I'm doing it. I don't love graveyards. Do I? Well, if I do, it's because they've grown on me, and I can see how useful they are for studying our modern societies. So it's about who we are. It's not I'm not a fetishist, you know. I don't love the headstones. I don't love this design and that design and this. It's a means to an end, really. Which brings me to the project that we're on here. That we were the reason why we're in Sweden. We're doing this Incultum project, and we're working with researchers all over Europe and a mixture of archaeologists, business. Economists, and people are bringing different skills to the table, and the lead researcher is I don't know, Professor Dr. Jose Maria from University of Granada Archaeology Department, and listening to him coming from the Spanish tradition, and it kind of, you know, when you hear people talking, they say things and then it sinks in over time. And the last couple of days, colleagues and were quoting Jose Maria, and were saying it themselves, that tourism is a means to an end for communities, and that communities can use tourism to for their own purposes, to improve their own conditions and their own environment and so on. And that ties in with climate change, and ties in with biodiversity, it ties in with making a living. But I suppose that hearing them articulate like that, I realise that's what I'm doing too, or that's what we're doing in the project. Mishesha and Garchu. I'd love to know what that iconography is. Sweden and India, is it? I should know those things. We'll learn it. That the reason we do this is not because we fetishize the past, or we fetishize objects from the past, or look at that fabulous headstone, or isn't that woman brilliant, or that fella, and isn't that so sad. It's actually, it all amalgamates and accumulates into something that tells us about who we are. And then if it tells you who you are, then you can also work out who you want to be. You know, say that's not good enough. That's why we do this, I think. Anyway, I've a very enjoyable morning strolling around here. Gonna head back down now. Might do another wee video later. We're gonna see, can we get out to the big burial mounds in Gamla, Uppsala. Oh my goodness, Kyrkagarden. Timber cross. How old is that? Johan Lanson. It's got water damage at the bottom, but it's so beautifully done. Oh, I'd love to walk around it. Even a timber cross will survive even in a wet, snowy country like this. I'd love to get a date off that. Alright. Leave me on, Marshin. I'll try and talk to you later from Gamla, Uppsala, which is the old late Bronze Age, early Iron Age burial grounds, where they say Odin, Thor and Freya are buried, but the archaeologists call them the middle tomb, the east tomb and the west tomb, you know, so we'll see. Hopefully we'll get out there. Slanish. Will I finish on the last one? District's lacquer. Those are recent flowers. Yeah, so that's about the oldest, well, one of the oldest ones we saw. Chicken chin. But here then, I won't intrude, but this looks like a recent. First bit of flowers, I wonder, are they allowed to do flowers just on a short term? Rest in peace. Espinosa. Alright, so doesn't look like a Swedish name as such. But a recent burial perhaps, or else an anniversary. Recent burial. Okay, nicely done. Slanish.